Hello, we'll try again with the mic working this time. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining me. I can see that we have you're joining me from a lot of places across the globe. So thank you for adding that into the comments for me. That's wonderful. Wonderful to have you here. I can see we have you here from Zambia, from India. Oh, an intensive care nurse. Lovely to meet you. And where else? Many places across the globe, just waiting for the rest of the comments to come in. There is a very slight delay in me seeing the comments as they come up. So um, we'll need to be patient about that. Okay, well, lovely to have you all here joining me for today's session on OET Reading Part C and how to identify the writer's opinions and attitudes, which is not it's not so easy at times. Oh, I see more coming in from Dubai, lovely, from the UK, wonderful. Hope the weather's not too bad there at the moment. And Ghana, wonderful, lovely. The US too, brilliant. So, thank you so much, everyone, for joining me today. I'm hoping today's session will be one that will leave you with some new strategies to use to help you on your OET journey and hopefully get the scores that you're looking for on test day. So, let's get started, shall we? I'm going to start sharing the screen just now, okay? And we'll get started with today's class. Now, the aim of the class is going to be for you to be interactive, okay? So, as far as possible, it would be wonderful if you could kind of join in with me. And yes, I think you should be seeing my screen now. Am I correct? Let me just see. Now, technology. I'll get there. Okay, so now you should be seeing the presentation screen. Okay, can you say yes in the comments if you can see the presentation screen clearly and also hear me clearly? Just want to make sure we have everything correct before we're starting. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for letting me know. So everything's working okay. So we can get started. Okay, so today's session, OET Reading Part C, how to identify the writer's attitudes and opinions. For those who don't know me, I'm Joan Ashcroft, and I'm from Ashcroft Medical English. Um, just to give you a little bit more background information about me, I'm a former UK doctor. My main mission is to help all of you healthcare professionals reach your goals. I offer regular free classes here on social media for OET, and they're also streamed through my own social media channels as well. And as an all-star, that's what we do. We're premium preparation providers, which means that we've had official OET training, and our courses have been verified to be of high quality. So this training that we've received is kind of over and above the standard training, and the aim of that is to just provide you with the quality of teaching that you deserve to receive. Okay, with that said, I'm going to do my best today to provide a valuable session for you, and I hope you do get a lot from it. So let's get moving. So today's class, we're going to first of all have a look at why this session is a useful one for you to have, what you're going to get from it. we're going to have a look at some of the challenges when it comes to trying to identify a writer's attitude or opinion. We're going to, importantly, be looking at solutions to this and giving you some strategies to use, um, some things to think about. As you improve in this skill, and we're going to practice. We're going to do some questions together to help kind of walk you through this process. Of course, after the session, you'll need to sort of do some more independent study because this class will serve as an introduction to the topic, but it is quite deep. Reading comprehension skills do take time, and reading Part C can be a bit of a challenge, but not a challenge that you cannot overcome. With some time and practice and a bit of guidance, you'll be absolutely fine. So I'm going to try and leave a little bit of time at the end to answer a few questions as well, okay? So as I've just mentioned, it does take time to build your reading comprehension skills. After this session, I will be leaving you with a free worksheet just to kind of help you work on that a little bit more. So hang on to the end of the session so that you get the link for that. Okay, it's completely free. Do remember, practice makes perfect, as I said. I'm here to help. So if you do feel that you need additional lessons to help build these skills, I am available to teach you one on one. Okay, so these sessions are one on one sessions. You can find out more about them on my OET website, and you can also see the link that's in the notes for this session. Okay, so moving on. So, the reason why you need to develop this skill, why do you need to be able to identify the writer's attitudes and opinions? Okay, so what are your thoughts? Write what you think in the comments. Why are we bothering to do this today? Why is it so important? Answers in the comments. Okay, let's see if your thoughts are similar to mine. Okay, so here are just some of my thoughts on it. Okay, so it does really help deepen your reading comprehension skills in general. In practical terms, this is specifically tested in OET Reading Part C, and if you can develop these skills, your scores will reflect this ability. You'll be able to score more. Okay, so these are some of the most important reasons. But overall, at the end of the day, what you want is to have excellent reading comprehension skills, because in life, in work, when you're actually in real healthcare settings, you're going to really want to understand everything easily. Okay, excellent. Okay, so I can see that some of the answers there are completely right. Yeah, a simple a response here, but a very correct one. You need to be able to do this to be able to choose the correct answer. Absolutely. So let's move on to the next part of the session. Okay, so if we're looking for the writer's attitude and opinion, what we're going to need to think about is the fact that we're looking for thoughts, feelings, and beliefs that the writer is trying to express. So we have to bear in mind that this is all non factual information. Okay. So it's useful to be able to differentiate fact from opinion in the text. But before we go on to that, because we'll come back to that later, I just want to show you some example questions that might come up in reading Part C. For example, if you go onto OET.com, you'll be able to get access to free sample test papers. And this sample test paper is Sample Reading Test 1. And the questions come from the first text on sleep deprivation. Um, these are just 2 questions in that paper that come up, okay? The first one being, what particularly impressed Bob McCarley of Harvard Medical School? So you're going to need to sort of read the text and just find out, oh, wow, what does Bob McCarley think's really cool? What really impressed him? Okay. And later in the text, you'll be asked to find out what aspects of her findings surprised Chiara Chiarelli. Okay, so you're looking for an expression of surprise, so the attitude. Okay, so moving on then to other examples, and this sample test paper is test 5 that you'll find on the OET website, and this is one that we're going to be having a closer look at throughout today's session. Now, this text is about planning for the future. And in terms of planning for the future, it's talking about medical school admissions and planning for the future doctors that result from this admission process being suitable to serve the population needs in a holistic way. Okay. Anyway, we can see that these 2 example questions look for you to be able to identify Professor Winston's reaction. So his reaction to something. And another question asking you to be able to identify what the writer's saying should be done. Okay, so these are all about attitudes and opinions. So we've talked a little bit about the challenges of doing this, being able to identify attitudes and opinions. But let's see specifically what the challenges are. Okay, so why it can become a bit tricky is because sometimes there's vocabulary that needs to be learned, or there are phrases that perhaps you just don't know yet. So a wide range of vocabulary and phrases are going to be needed. And this is knowledge that needs to be built over time. It's also good to be able to understand the structure of a text and its impact. For example, a writer might repeat what they've said in a slightly different way, or they might mention supporting evidence after they've expressed their opinion. And this is all helping you to understand what the writer's attitudes and opinions actually are. There's a skill that's particularly important in reading part C when it comes to trying to understand what the writer's attitude and opinion is, and that's reading between the lines. We can also call this inferring meaning. Okay. And in summary, what you're going to need is excellent critical thinking skills. So this ability to reason, to process all of this information, and form your answer as a result of all of this process. So, okay, so on to the solution. Okay, so what we're going to do. So, you're going to build knowledge and skills. This will take a little bit of time and practice. You're going to use test strategies that will help you identify attitude and opinion. And we're going to look at some questions together in class today. So, first of all, going back to my earlier point, it's important to be able to understand when the writer is expressing an opinion or whether they're actually stating a fact. Okay, so now over to you. I want to know what you think. Okay, take a moment to read this here and tell me, is this a fact or an opinion that the writer is expressing? So I'll read it out. According to recent clinical trials, the efficacy of this drug in reducing blood pressure has been consistently demonstrated. What are your thoughts? Fact or opinion? Leave your answer in the comments if you don't mind. I see the first answer coming in there, and it's absolutely correct. Yes. Just wait for a few more. Absolutely. You guys have no problems with this. Okay, so the vast majority of you getting this correct. And you can see that this is a fact. A fact is being discussed here. Objective information has been given. Okay, this is information based on recent clinical trials. So it's not about the writer's opinion, it's just what the clinical trials have found. Okay, excellent. All right. So on to the next one. Fact or opinion? Future investigations should focus on understanding which subgroups of patients will benefit most from this drug. Is this the writer's opinion or is this an actual fact? Put your answers in the comments. Okay. So let's see. Yeah, you're not having a problem with this at all. Excellent, fantastic. Yes, this is an opinion. It's the writer's opinion as to what should be done. And note that there's a modal verb in here, should. Okay. And often when opinions are being expressed, modal verbs are used. Okay. So that's something to bear in mind. So just taking a closer look at modal verbs here when expressing opinions. Okay. So here are some examples of modal verbs. Okay, so we had should in the previous example. Ought to could have also been used, and this is when the writer's expressing a clear opinion. Okay, sometimes they might be a level of uncertainty as to what's being said as they express an opinion, in which case the writer might use what we call more tentative language. Okay, so here they might say things like can, may, might, or could. Okay, so watch out for tentative language. That can really help you identify when an opinion's been expressed. Here are more examples, okay? So these are some of the words and phrases that you might also see. These are just a few examples, but it helps give you an idea of what to look out for. So you might see adverbs such as probably, possibly, okay, or you might see verbs such as tends to, seems, or phrases. For example, it could be argued that. Okay, so you get the idea. These words and phrases all suggest that there's some sort of level of uncertainty. Okay, so let's put this into practice with a small extract from one of the sample OET tests. Okay, and this is from sample test 5, small part of text 1, sample text 5. Okay, take a moment to read through this and tell me anywhere that you can see tentative language being used. Anything that um, gives this idea that it's not going to be 100% for sure to be the case. Okay? Anywhere you can see tentative language. Think about sentence one. There's something there, and also in the second sentence. Let's see what you've got. Awesome. Okay, wonderful. Yes, tend to, maybe, may, and often. Wonderful. You guys have got it. Okay. So you understand what you're looking for when opinions are being expressed and tentative language is being used. Excellent. Okay. So here's a little bonus tip. Okay. It's also good as you're reading to try and think, okay, what is the reader for? What are they against? Okay, so that's just another way you can try and understand what the writer's opinion might be. Okay, so are they saying, no, I'm against this? Or are they saying, yes, I'm for this? Just something else to think about. And in trying to understand what they're for or against, this goes back to just being aware of the structure of the text a little bit. So you might see that they're saying something to emphasize their point. They might be emphasizing it by repeating it in a slightly different way, or they might bring up supporting evidence. Okay, moving on now. Swiftly on, I've got a lot of information to share with you today, as it is quite a broad topic. So we're going to move on now to trying to identify whether the attitudes of the reader are positive, negative, or neutral. Okay, so this is something that is often very indirectly expressed, so it's good to be able to identify it and have a way of doing so. First of all, what do you think? What do you think? Can you pick up from this bit of information from the text whether the tone is positive, negative, or neutral? What do you think? Just wait a moment for the comments to come in and for you to have a little think. And then maybe also think, why? Why is it that you think it's positive, negative, or neutral? Okay, interesting. We have a mix. We have a mix of different comments here. Okay. Okay. So most people thinking this sounds kind of neutral. I can maybe see where you're coming from. Um, but there's a word in here that's actually pretty positive. Okay. So he's been positive. The writer has been positive because they're using this word esteemed. Okay. So this is where kind of broad vocabulary can be really useful because what esteemed means is highly respected. So highly respected is something very positive. Yeah. This is a positive adjective. So this is overall got a positive tone. Okay. The esteemed clinician sparked debate recently. So debate, sparking debate can be kind of a neutral thing. It might be a good thing. It might be a bad thing. It could be a neutral thing. But I think overall, because of the use of the word esteemed, we can take this as, the writer having a positive tone. Okay, let's try another one. Okay, do you think the tone here is positive, negative, or neutral? Have a think why you would view it as positive, why you would view it as negative, or why neutral. Have a look at the words used. Okay, so let's see if you are in agreement with my thoughts on this one. Okay, so for me here, there's a key word narrow. Okay, and narrow is a word that tends to have negative connotations. Okay, so we tend to associate the word, for example, broad as being more positive. For example, broad knowledge of something. Okay, but here we're using the word narrow and it tends to have kind of these negative associations. For example, narrow minded is a negative description of someone. Okay, so let's have a look at the word that I use there, connotation. Okay, now this is something that's it's kind of it's subtle to pick up, but you do pick it up after you kind of read more and understand use of language and more over time. Okay, so really the connotation of something is the feeling or the idea that's suggested by a word. Okay, in addition to its basic meaning. Okay, for example, if you were to describe someone as resolute, this would be kind of focusing on the positive aspects of maybe being a little stubborn at times. Okay. So if you said someone was stubborn, well, this just sounds negative. If you say they're resolute, we start to look at this in a positive light. Okay, so connotation is important to understand when it comes to the words used. Okay, so we're going to move on now to have a look at specific reading part C questions that relate to sample test 5 that we've been looking at in the past few slides there. Okay, so what I'm going to suggest as a test strategy is this for reading part C. Read carefully, first of all, okay? But as you're reading, follow a set process, okay? First, read the question, then read the relevant part of the text, and only then go to the options and read those carefully. Okay, if you do this, it will be the most effective way of finding the answer, and I would highly recommend that you use this strategy. Okay, so question, text, options. You might get to the options and then think, I'm still not sure. Okay, if that's the case, no problem. Go back to the text and double check your choices. Okay, so there might be a little bit of to and fro at that stage, but you do need to take your time and be careful. Okay, so here's a question for you. And this is the one from sample test 5. This is one of them. I'm only focusing on questions that look for attitude and opinion. Okay, so this question is, what is the writer's reaction to Professor Winston's strategy? Okay, so this question relates to this part of the text. So this is where we're going to look first. And just to give you the context again, as you don't have the full text here in front of you, this text is about medical school admissions, planning for the future healthcare needs of the population, and viewing this from a holistic way. Okay. So I'll give you a moment to have a read through this paragraph, and I'll also read it out to you. Okay, so the esteemed clinician scientist, Professor Robert Winston, sparked debate recently. He avoids hiring graduates who have achieved high first class degrees to work in his laboratories, he said, because experience has taught him that they are less likely to be well rounded and good team players. Many hardworking and gifted students may feel aggrieved by his approach, but it's refreshing to see public acknowledgement that recruitment strategies must assess more than just academic ability. A similar debate has also resurfaced about medical school admissions, with senior clinicians and medical educators reiterating the need for a holistic application system to identify the most promising future doctors. Okay, so you may read that and you may see bits of vocabulary that are a little unfamiliar. Try not to get too stressed about that, but maybe to just see if you can kind of just pick up the main ideas. Okay. Um, we'll first focus in on sentence one, okay? And I've highlighted this word esteemed that we mentioned earlier. So I'm just going to guide you through this, and hopefully this will show you the thought processes that you can perhaps go through on your own in future to be able to choose the right answer. Okay? So, what do you think? Does the writer respect Professor Robert Winston? What are your thoughts? Okay, let's see if you're in agreement with me. Okay, so I would say yes. It sounds like the writer does respect Professor Winston because of the use of the word esteemed. Okay, so this is a positive adjective showing that the writer does have respect for Professor Winston. Okay, so the next question to help guide your thought process here, we then go on to the second sentence where the writer explains Professor Winston's approach to hiring graduates. Now, because of the use of the word esteemed, is the writer likely to support the professor's approach to hiring graduates? What do you think? Is he likely to support the professor or not? So I would say yes, he is likely to be in support of the professor because of the fact that he views him as being esteemed, highly esteemed. Okay, so you would have to read carefully to make sure, but this positive adjective would suggest this. Okay, okay, moving on then. Okay, so next, we move on to have a look at the next sentence here. Many hardworking and gifted students may feel aggrieved by his approach, but it's refreshing to see public acknowledgement that recruitment strategies must assess more than just academic ability. Okay, so here we can see that this part of the sentence has a kind of a negative feel to it, aggrieved by. So they don't feel good about this approach if they're hardworking and gifted. Then we have but, introducing a contrasting point of view. Okay, so but it's refreshing to see. What does it suggest? Approval, disapproval, or is it neutral? Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, you guys have it. Yeah, he's suggesting approval here. He's saying it's refreshing to see this. It's good to see. Excellent. So you got the idea. So moving on then. Let's just have a look at why the writer would have included this final sentence. Okay. He says a similar debate has also resurfaced about medical school admissions, with senior clinicians and medical educators reiterating the need for a holistic application system to identify the most promising future doctors. Why does the writer include this sentence? What's the purpose? And how does it help us understand the writer's opinion? So this is looking at the structure of it a little bit. So let's see if your thoughts are similar to mine. I can see some comments coming in, and feel free to write down your thoughts too. So why would the writer include this final sentence? Okay, I see one to support Professor Winston. Yeah, you've got the right idea. Yeah, it's supporting evidence is another comment from Mustafa. Thank you very much for that. Yeah, it's repetition. Excellent. You guys have got the right idea. Okay. He's supporting the point that he's making, which is opinion that Professor Winston's approach to hiring is a good one. Okay, so that makes selection of your answer a lot more simple once you've gone through this process. So here I've just put the text. This is the same text as you've just been reading, and the questions the options here to select from. Okay, so you have four options to choose from now, and I'd like to see what you think. Is it A, B, C, or D? This shouldn't be too tricky now. We've gone through this thinking process. Okay. So, so as you can see, that once we've gone through the thought process and really analysed the words used and looked at the structure, it becomes more simple to kind of see that correct option jump out. Okay, and yeah, everyone's got it. Everyone's got it. He approves of the idea behind it. Wonderful. Okay, you've got that. That was easy, wasn't it? Okay, so let's take a look at another question. Okay, so this is another question, and now we're jumping on to the final question that appears in this test paper. And if you have already looked into how this reading test is structured, you'll know that the questions follow the text. So there will have been a number of other paragraphs before the relevant paragraph for this question. So we're jumping on a little bit, but this is again to focus on attitudes and opinions of the writer. So this question is, what does the writer suggest about the UK Department of Health in the final paragraph? Okay, so this is the question. So let's go to the text. Okay, so the final paragraph in this text is this one. A holistic admissions process is likely to facilitate the recruitment of suitably skilled people who will appreciate the satisfaction of a lifetime building human relationships. So perhaps instead of coercing existing doctors towards facing the generalist challenges, the UK Department of Health would be better advised to invest in the medical school admissions process and reevaluate recruitment to the profession altogether. Okay, so here the writer's giving their opinion. Okay, so again, there might be one or two words that you find a bit tricky. So this is where vocabulary building comes in and makes life easier for you. But even without that, I'm hoping you'll be able to get the main ideas to help out a little bit. Coercing is similar to forcing. And when they talk about the generalist challenges, I'll help you out here. They're talking about the skills needed to provide holistic care um, in in specialties that cover a more broad range of issues. Okay, so things like general practice, for example. Okay, so hopefully you've had a chance to digest that a little bit. And now let's have a look at the options. So take your time to carefully consider whether you think the answer is A, B, C, or D. Okay, take a moment. You should take your time with this. This is part of the test that does take careful reading. So if we're going a little bit fast today, please feel free to come back to this video and you can pause at the appropriate points and try again if you wish. Okay, so let's see what your thoughts are here. So here's the correct answer. And I can see that some of you got it, and some found it a little bit more tricky. Okay, so let me break down a little bit why the answer is B and why it's more about the approach to solving the problem being misguided. Okay, so let's have a look. If we go and analyze the text carefully, we can see that we've got these positive adjectives here in support of, recruiting based on the required skills. Okay. And then there's a suggestion being made. So perhaps, so this is kind of language used to make a suggestion instead of, so rather than coercing, forcing, or making existing doctors face these generalist challenges. So instead of kind of making them do things that they don't necessarily have the natural skills to do, maybe, perhaps, it would be better to do something else. So the writer is suggesting that the UK Department of Health would be better advised too. Okay, so they should do something else. Okay, so they're doing the wrong thing, he's suggesting, by coercing, making existing doctors face general challenges. And instead, they should do something different. So their initial approach has been misguided. Okay, it has been incorrect. They should do something different. They'd be better to invest in the medical school admissions process and reevaluate, reassess the recruitment to the profession altogether. Okay, so it's about what they're doing being done for maybe not the right reasons. It's not the best approach. Okay, so if we go back to the previous slide, I can notice that a number of you have selected option A. It underestimates the scale of the challenge. Okay, and here, why this option would not be the best answer is because the text is not really focusing on how big the challenge is, but just the correct way of dealing with it. So it's nowhere in the text is it really talking about the enormity, how big it is, and that it's been underestimated, but just more that their approach to solving the problem has not been the best one. Okay, so hopefully that helps clear up any doubts on that one. Okay, so thank you for working hard in today's session. Thank you for putting your answers in the comments there and working with me. It's great to, practice. And if you found this challenging, do not worry. It does get easier with practice, okay? To wrap up today, when we're identifying attitudes and opinions, first of all, it's good to be able to have clarity, just to be really clear on when the writer is stating a fact or when they're actually giving their opinion. So it's good to be able to differentiate between the two. And in terms of your careful reading process, carefully have a look at the language used and the structure of the text. And we've talked through a number of features that you can look out for as you do so. So we've got a few minutes now to have question time. So if anyone's got a question for me, please feel free to leave it in the comments. And while you're kind of putting your questions in there, I will answer one question that is quite commonly asked, and that's about how to split the time for the reading part B and C paper, because what you'll notice if you've had a look at the sample tests, for example, is that part A is separate, and part B and C is together, and you've got 45 minutes to do that part of the test. So what students sometimes have trouble with is knowing how to manage their time, and sometimes can spend a little too much time on section B and then run out of time for section C, where all of this careful reading is needed, and you need to slow down a little bit, otherwise mistakes are easily made. My recommendation: 10 minutes for part B, 35 minutes for part C. I'm remembering that part C will have 2 texts for you to answer questions for, okay? So 10 minutes for B, 35 minutes for the 2 texts in part C. Okay? Okay, so let's have a look at a little question that's come in there. What common expressions, phrases suggest neutrality? Yeah, that's a really good question to ask. I think it really is quite a difficult question to answer on the spot. So what I'm going to do is kind of put some careful thought into it, and I'm going to write a special answer for you separately, and maybe give you a few examples. Okay, but things like may, okay, on its own suggests it could be one way, it could be the other way, but it really depends on what's coming next. So I'll take a little bit of time and put a few examples in the comments to hopefully help you out with that. Okay, so Okay, so hopefully, guys, you got something useful from today's session. Don't worry, as I said, if you found it a little bit tricky, um, reading part C is one of the more challenging parts of the test. It does take a bit of time and practice, but you will get there. Okay, don't forget, I do have a worksheet that I've created for you. And in answer to the previous questions about phrases, expressions that suggest neutrality, when you go to the worksheet, you will see some more guidance on that, and you'll see a little bit of an example or two of what's neutral. Okay, so download the worksheet. Okay, and you'll be able to try an exercise or two there. All right, so don't forget to download that. You can see the link here, and you'll be able to get that completely free. If you feel that you need a little bit of help building your skills for reading, or any of the other subtests, just let me know. You can contact me through my website, ashcroftmedicalenglish.com. There's also a link in the show notes to find more information on preparing with me. With that said, then we'll wrap up for today. Um, if you would like to join me for another session, um, the next session will be OET speaking. That will take place on Monday, March the 25th. And in it, I'm going to be sharing with you 4 really important questions to ask when giving information. Now, just so you know, this ties in strictly with the assessment criteria. And if you get these questions in, you will increase your score. Okay, so don't miss out on that session. It would be lovely to have you join me for the session. And if you have any other comments, questions that you would like to ask, leave them in the comments and I'll try and monitor what's coming through. Okay. Um, just a question was there about how to get the worksheet. I'll just go back to let you see that. Okay, so to get the worksheet, you just need to go back here. Okay, you go to this link, ashcroftmedicalenglish.com /reading worksheet. Okay, so hopefully that will help you. Hopefully today's session has helped. I will wrap up there for today, okay? And I will see you next time, okay, for OET speaking. Take care. Bye bye.